Charts are a great way to visually present your data, and they can be much easier to read than when your data is in a table. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how you can create and customize charts in Excel, including how to add a secondary y-axis and how to create a pie chart. And if you'd like to grab a copy of the file I use in this video, just click on the link in the description below. Now on this worksheet, we have a table of data where we've got the month names and we've got the sales for each month, and then we've got a total down the bottom. Now in table form, this data can be quite hard to read, and it's really difficult to see which months are the best and which months are the worst, and if there's any trends. So in order to help us read this information properly, we can create a chart. Now there's a few different ways you can do this, and I'll just show you that if you get your mouse and you select all of the cells, including the total, and then you go to the Insert tab in the ribbon, you'll see a Charts section. And from there, you can click on one of these buttons to create a specific type of chart if you know what you want. Or you can click on this button for recommended charts. So I'm going to click on that one and see what Excel does. And here you can see that Excel has recommended a clustered column chart. And if we have a look down the recommended charts tab, you can see that there's a bunch of other types of charts as well that we can choose from. And also there's an all charts tab where there's a bunch of different types of charts and variations of those. So for example, at the moment, we've got a column chart selected and we've got variations along here. So if we click onto these, you can see that we can get into some 3D charts and some other types of charts as well. Or we can choose a line chart, a pie chart, a bar chart, etc. and different variations of those. Okay, let's go back to our recommended charts and we'll just click on OK to select that. And if we make that a bit bigger, the first thing we can see is that having the total in there creates a problem. So let's get rid of the total. All we need to do is click on the chart and then come over to the table of data, mouse over the little square right here, left click with the mouse and drag it up and then let go. And you can see now that the total is not included in the data on the chart, and that's making the chart look a lot more sensible. Okay, so I'm just going to right click on this chart and just cut it and get rid of it. And I'll just show you another way that you can do this. So if you click anywhere on the table of data and then press Alt F1, you can see that Excel has created a chart for that table of data. So you can do that instead of pressing the button in the ribbon. Once again, we can see that we've got the total in here. So I'll just click on the chart and we'll come over here and remove the total. And now we've got a much more sensible looking chart. Now, if I just right click and cut this again, and this time, let's just select the data that we do want and the headers at the top. And we'll go back to our Insert tab. And this time, let's just go straight into choosing a chart type. And I'm going to choose a line chart. And we'll just get this one here. And here we can see that Excel has created a line chart out of the data we selected, which did not include the total. Now, just because we've chosen that chart to begin with, it doesn't mean we're stuck with it. So if we click on the chart, we can see up in the ribbon, we now have a couple of new tabs. One is for chart design and the other one is for format. If we click on chart design, there's a button over here called change chart type. And if we click on it, we bring up that same box that we had earlier where we've got all these different chart types to choose from. So if you wanted to change this to something else, you can quickly do it that way instead of deleting your chart and starting again from scratch. So I'm going to choose a column chart because I thought that looked better than the line chart, and I'll click on OK. And now we have a column chart. After you create a chart in Excel, there's a whole lot of different ways you can customize it to make it look how you want. So let's take a look at a few of those customization options now using the chart we just made. There's a few different ways that you can get to your customization options. First of all, if you left click with your mouse anywhere on the chart, you'll see these icons or buttons appear over on the top right. And if you click on the first one, you can see that there's different chart elements that we can add or subtract from the chart. So for example, if we wanted to put some axis titles in, we can check this box here. And as you can see, some titles appear on the X and Y axis. There's also options for data labels, a data table, error bars, a legend, and also a trend line. And if you want to add any of those things to your chart, all you need to do is just check the box. If you want to remove any of those elements, you just uncheck the box. Okay, let's click on the next button down. And here you can see there's all different chart styles that we can choose from. So if there's a style that you like in there, say this one with the dark background, you can go ahead and click on that. There's also a color tab in here, so you can go ahead and pick a different color palette if you like. The next icon down is a filter, and from here you can toggle on or off any of the data that you want to show on the chart. So I've just unchecked January, February, and March there, and if I click on apply, you can see now that we've only got data from April to December, and I can add it back onto the chart just by checking those boxes and clicking on apply. There's also a link down here to the select data source tool, and from here you can do all kinds of things such as changing the overall range of the data that you're selecting, adding or removing data series. So at the moment we've just got one data series, which is sales, but if you had more than one, you could just check and uncheck those as appropriate. And you can also check and uncheck these boxes to add or remove the data. So if I uncheck January, February, and March, and then press OK, you can see that once again, we've just got April to December. So I'll just come back in here and put them back this way. Okay, so that's one way to get to some customization options. Another way is if you click on the chart and you go up to the ribbon, you can see that there's a chart design tab and a format tab now. So let's click on chart design. And on here, you can see some of the same things that we saw just before from those icons or buttons. So this one here, for example, this is where you can add or remove elements such as the axis titles like we did before, or the data labels or the data table, etc. You've also got the different chart styles along here that we saw before. And there's also the data selector, which we brought up through the filter button. So that's just another way to access the same thing. But there's also a quick layout button over here. And if we click on that and we mouse over some of these options, you can see the chart changing and it's adding or removing certain elements. So this one, for example, it has the axis title over here, and it also has a data table down below. If we go to the next one, we can see that we have the data labels and we also have the legend down below. So if there's something in here that you want, you can just go ahead and select it this way instead of adding or removing the elements one by one. Okay, let's go back over here and we'll just add those axis titles back in. And I'll just show you how you can customize the title of the chart and also the axis titles. So if we just click into the chart title and we'll just call it sales report by typing in report, and then we just highlight it all, and you can see that it's brought up a pop-up where we can change the style. So I might make that bold, and I'll make the font bigger, and I'll also make it black. Okay, so there's lots of options there for your chart title. You can also see a panel popped up over on the right here, and you can get to all sorts of styling options in here as well. Okay, for the axis titles, let's just go onto this one and we'll call this amount, and then I'll double click on it so I can bring up the little style box, and we'll make that font a bit bigger as well, and I'll just make that black. And then the axis title down the bottom, we don't really need it because we can see that it's months. So I'll come up here and I'll click on the arrow and I'll just remove that primary horizontal axis title because like I said, we don't really need it. Okay, another thing we might want to do is just make it clear that this is dollar amounts. So if I just double click on these axis labels, this box pops out on the right here, and we can come over to the panel and go to the number section, and we'll just choose currency. And now you can see the dollar signs have appeared. So that makes it more clear to the readers that it's dollars. And as you can see over here, there's lots and lots of different options that you can choose from if there's some other way you need to style your axis labels. Okay, one other thing I'll show you is just how you can style the series. So one way you can do that is just by clicking on it and then right clicking on it. And you can see we've got a little pop-up box that appears. So if you just wanted to do something quick, like change the color, you can just do it right here. So we could change that to orange, and we could actually get rid of the outline if you didn't want the outlines there. So now you can see we've got orange columns without the outline. And if we go back on it and right click again, you can see that we can get to all those different places that we saw before. So you've got things like your data labels, your trend line, your data points, you've got the data selector as well. So that's just another way to get to all those options. And if I just double click on it, you can also see that this panel has popped out on the right. And once again, you can go through all of these options over here and you can style the series to whatever you like. So there's all kinds of things over there. Now that we've seen some of the ways you can customize your charts in Excel, let's take a look at how you can add a secondary y-axis so you can display more than one data series at a time. In this example, we need to create a chart where we have both sales and the profit percentage on the y-axis. But when we do it, you'll see that we can't use the same y-axis for both. We need to create a secondary y-axis. So let's get started by clicking on our table of data and pressing Alt F1. And as you can see, Excel has created a column chart. Now the first thing we need to do is remove the totals. So we'll just put the mouse over here and drag that up so there's no more totals. And then we'll just make the chart a bit bigger so we can see it better. And because we only want the sales numbers and the profit percentage, we just need to remove some of the data. So to do that, I'll just right click on the chart and go to the data selector. And the first thing I want to do is just edit the horizontal axis labels. So instead of it being the period numbers, I'm going to choose the months to make it more clear for the readers of the chart. And then I'm going to remove a couple of these data series. So first of all, let's click on month and then remove, and then profit and then remove. And now what we're left with is the sales numbers and the profit percentage. Now, if I click on OK, you can see that we have sales and we do have percentage profit as per the legend down the bottom here, but we can't actually see the percentage profit because of the scale of the y-axis. So the profit numbers are anywhere between 0 and 100%, and they just don't show up on this scale because it goes all the way up to 120,000. So to fix that, we just need to right click on the chart and go to change chart type. And on the all charts tab, we just come down to combo and click on that. And we'll keep our clustered column line chart. And we'll have sales as the clustered column and then percentage profit as the line. But what we need to do is just check this box next to percentage profit to put the line on a secondary axis, which is over on the right hand side of the chart. And it's a little blurry, but you can see there that it has added the line in now and it's on a different scale. If I uncheck that, you can see now it's removed. So they're both on the same y-axis. If I check it again, they've now each got their own y-axis. And if we click on OK, we can now see that more clearly out on the chart. So now the sales numbers are using the y-axis over on the left-hand side, which has a scale of 0 to 120,000. And the percentage profit is using the y-axis on the right-hand side, which has a scale from 0% to 60%. And because they're both using different scales on the two different axes, they're both easy to see. Okay, so that's how you create a secondary axis. And from there, you can go ahead and customize the chart titles, etc., however you like. We're going to finish off this video by creating a pie chart in Excel, which is what you can use to represent your data by proportion. Now, to create a pie chart out of the headcount table that we have here, just click anywhere on the table and press Alt F1. And then we'll just come down here and remove the totals from the data. And then the next thing we need to do is actually select a pie chart, because Excel has gone and made a column chart. So if we just right click on the chart and then go to change chart type, and then from the All Charts tab, choose Pie. We can choose either a standard pie chart or a 3D pie chart or a donut chart. I'm just going to stick with the standard pie chart and press OK. And now we have our pie chart. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is add some data labels. So if we come up to the plus icon and then check the box for data labels, you can see that it's added the headcount numbers in there, but we might need to do a better job of these data labels. So if we click on the arrow and then we go to more options, what we need to do is also put the category names in there. So we'll just check that box. And now we have the names of the departments as well as the number for the headcounts. We do have a comma in between those, which I might remove. So if we come down to this separator and just select space, that will remove the comma between the name and the number. And just to show you, you can also choose percentage rather than value. So if we click on percent and then we uncheck value, you can see instead of having the value now, we have the percentage proportion. So that's just an option if you'd rather do it that way. I'm just going to put it back onto value, and then I'm going to close this panel, and we'll just have a look at how we can change these data labels so we can see them better. So if I click on the chart elements button and then go to data labels, and we have a look at the different options. So there's center, inside end, outside end, best fit, data callout, and then more options where we were before. I would say outside end looks the best, so we can click on that one. And then if we come over and we just right click on one of the labels and go to font, I'll just make that font size a bit bigger. So I'll make that 12. And we can also make the color black so it stands out a bit more, and click OK. And now our data labels are a little easier to see. Okay, so from there you have all the usual options for customizing. So we can change the title to headcount, and we can also highlight the text, make it bold, make it bigger so it's easier to see, and you can do whatever else you want to it as well. And if we click on the style button, you can see there's a whole bunch of preset styles in here, so you can choose from those if you like. And there's also a bunch of different color palettes, so you can choose a color palette out of here if you like. Okay, so that's how you can create a pie chart in Excel. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned a lot about creating charts, but feel free to leave a comment below if you have any suggestions for other tutorials on how to create charts in Excel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.